Marcus Williams checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. The courthouse clock showed 4:47 p.m., and his shift at the security desk would end at 5. His legs ached from standing all day, but he couldn't complain. This job paid the bills and kept food on the table for him and his 8-year-old son, Jamal. The rain outside had been pouring since noon, turning the October afternoon dark and cold. Marcus watched through the tall windows as people hurried past with umbrellas and newspapers over their heads. He thought about the grocery shopping he needed to do after work. Jamal was growing fast and ate like a teenager already. "Hey Marcus, you can head out early today," called Officer Rodriguez from across the lobby. "It's dead quiet in here, and I can handle the last few minutes." Marcus smiled gratefully. "Thanks, Rodriguez. I owe you one." He gathered his things from behind the security desk, said goodbye to the other guards, and headed for the exit. The courthouse where he worked was one of the busiest in the city, handling everything from traffic tickets to major criminal cases. Marcus had been working there for 2 years, ever since he lost his job at the factory. The divorce had been rough. When Sarah left, she took half of everything and moved to another state with her new boyfriend. She sent a birthday card to Jamal once a year, but that was about it. Marcus tried not to be bitter. He focused on being the best father he could be with what he had. As he pushed through the heavy glass doors, the rain hit his face like tiny cold needles. He had forgotten his umbrella again. Marcus pulled his jacket hood up and started walking quickly toward the bus stop. The nearest one was 3 blocks away, and he could already feel water seeping through his worn shoes. Halfway to the bus stop, he heard something that made him slow down. Crying. Not just any crying, but the sound of children in distress. Marcus stopped and looked around. The street was mostly empty because of the rain, but he could definitely hear voices. Following the sound, he walked toward a small park across from the courthouse. There, under a gazebo that wasn't providing much shelter, he saw 2 little girls. They looked to be about 6 or 7 years old, with identical faces and matching pink raincoats that were soaked through. Twins, he realized. The girls were holding each other and crying. They looked scared and alone. Marcus approached carefully. He knew that as a large black man, he had to be extra cautious when dealing with other people's children. Too many people made quick judgments. But these little girls clearly needed help. "Hey there," he called out softly as he got closer. "Are you two okay?" The girls looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. One had slightly curlier hair than the other, but otherwise they were identical. Their faces were red from crying, and their lips looked blue from the cold. "We can't find our daddy," the one with curlier hair said through her tears. "He was supposed to pick us up at 3 o'clock, but he never came." Marcus felt his heart break a little. He thought about Jamal and how scared his son would be in the same situation. He looked around, hoping to see a frantic parent searching for lost children, but the street remained empty except for passing cars. "Where were you supposed to meet your daddy?" Marcus asked, crouching down to their level despite the wet ground soaking through his pants. "At the big building with the tall steps," the other twin said, pointing toward the courthouse. "Mommy always drops us there when we visit Daddy." Marcus realized these were children of divorce, just like his situation. The courthouse handled family court cases, and it was common for custody exchanges to happen there. Something had clearly gone wrong today. "What are your names?" he asked gently. "I'm Emma," said the girl with curlier hair. "And this is my sister Emily. We're twins." "I'm Marcus," he said. "I work in that building you pointed to. Do you have a phone number for your daddy?" Both girls shook their heads. "Mommy has all the phone numbers in her phone, but she already drove away," Emma explained. "She said Daddy would be here soon." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, not at the children, but at the adults who had failed them. How could both parents be so careless with these innocent little girls? "Do you know your daddy's name?" he asked. "His full name?" "Daddy Judge," Emily said simply. "Judge?" Marcus repeated, thinking it was an unusual name. Yeah, everyone calls him judge because that's his job, Emma added. He sits at the big table and makes decisions about people. Marcus's blood ran cold. These children belonged to one of the judges who worked in the courthouse. The same courthouse where he worked security. The same courthouse where those judges held all the power, including the power over cases that could affect his own life. He thought about the custody hearing he had coming up next month. Sarah was trying to get full custody of Jamal and move him out of state. She claimed Marcus couldn't provide a stable environment because he only worked as a security guard. The judge assigned to his case would have complete power over his future with his son. But, looking at these two little girls, cold and scared and abandoned, Marcus knew he couldn't walk away. They were just children. They needed help, and he was the only person here to give it. Okay, listen, he said, taking off his jacket. I'm going to help you find your daddy, but first we need to get you somewhere warm and dry. He wrapped his jacket around both girls. It was big enough to cover them like a blanket. There's a coffee shop just down the street. We can wait there while we figure out how to reach your daddy. Emma looked uncertain. Mommy says we're not supposed to go places with strangers. Your mommy is very smart, Marcus said. That's usually good advice. But this is an emergency, and I'm not really a stranger. I work in the same building as your daddy. How about this, we'll call the police from the coffee shop, and they can help us find him. Does that sound okay? The girls looked at each other, having one of those silent twin conversations. Finally, they both nodded. Marcus stood up and held out his hands. After a moment's hesitation, each girl took one of his hands. They were so small and cold that it made his chest tight with emotion. The coffee shop was warm and bright, with soft jazz music playing and the smell of fresh coffee filling the air. Marcus found a booth in the back where they could sit while he figured out what to do. The barista, a young woman with purple hair, brought over some towels and didn't ask any questions. Can we have hot chocolate? Emily asked quietly. Marcus checked his wallet. He had $20 left until payday, but, looking at their hopeful faces, he couldn't say no. Of course. 2 hot chocolates coming up. While the girls warmed up and sipped their drinks, Marcus used the coffee shop's phone to call the police non-emergency line. He explained the situation: 2 young girls waiting for their father who never showed up for a custody exchange at the courthouse. We'll send an officer over to take a report, the dispatcher said. Can you stay with them until we get there? Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied. He thought about Jamal, who would be getting off the school bus in an hour expecting his father to be home. Mrs. Chen next door sometimes watched him when emergencies came up, but Marcus didn't want to impose unless he had to. He sat back down with the girls, who were looking much better now that they were warm and had something sweet to drink. Tell me about your daddy, Marcus said, hoping to get more information that might help locate the missing judge. He's really tall, Emma said. Taller than you, even. And he has gray hair, Emily added. But Mommy says he used to have brown hair like ours before he got old. Does he drive a special kind of car? A big black car, Emma said. Really shiny. He says it's important for judges to look professional. Marcus nodded. Many of the judges he saw coming and going from the courthouse drove expensive cars. It was part of the image, he supposed. What about your mommy? He asked. What's she like? The girls' faces lit up. Mommy is the best, Emily said. She's a teacher, and she helps kids learn to read. She makes the best pancakes in the whole world, Emma added. And she reads us stories every night before bed. That sounds wonderful, Marcus said, meaning it. He thought about the bedtime stories he read to Jamal, how precious that quiet time was for both of them. 20 minutes later, a police officer arrived. Officer Patricia Gonzalez was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a calm manner that immediately put the girls at ease. Hello there, ladies, she said, sliding into the booth across from them. I hear you're looking for your daddy. Emma and Emily nodded, suddenly shy. Officer Gonzalez took out a small notebook. Can you tell me your daddy's name? His real name, not just what you call him? The girls looked at each other uncertainly. We just call him Daddy, Emma finally said. What about your last name? Do you know what that is? Montgomery, Emily said proudly. Emma and Emily Montgomery. Marcus felt another chill run through him. Montgomery. Judge Montgomery was hearing his custody case next month. The same judge whose children were sitting right here in front of him. Officer Gonzalez made notes and asked a few more questions, but the girls didn't know their father's first name or any contact information. They knew their mother's name was Jennifer and that she taught at Riverside Elementary, but they didn't know her phone number. I'll contact the school and see if I can reach your mother, Officer Gonzalez said. In the meantime, are you comfortable staying here with Mr. Williams? Marcus realized she was asking him if he was willing to continue watching the girls. He thought about Jamal again, but he couldn't abandon these children now. Of course, he said. Whatever they need. Officer Gonzalez stood up. I'll be back as soon as I can reach your parents. You girls be good for Mr. Williams, okay? After she left, Marcus found himself alone with the two little girls again. They seemed more relaxed now, swinging their legs under the table and chattering quietly to each other. Mr. Marcus, Emma said suddenly. Do you have any kids? I do, Marcus said, smiling. I have a son named Jamal. He's 8 years old. Is he nice? Emily asked. He's the best kid in the world, Marcus said. Just like I'm sure you two are the best daughters in the world. The girls giggled. Daddy says we're trouble, Emma said. But, the good kind of trouble. The best kind of trouble, Marcus agreed, though his stomach twisted thinking about Judge Montgomery and the power he held over Marcus's future. An hour passed. Then, another. Marcus called Mrs. Chen to ask if she could pick up Jamal from the bus stop and watch him for a few hours. The older woman agreed without hesitation, as she always did. Marcus was grateful for neighbors like her. The girls had finished their hot chocolate and were getting restless. Marcus bought them each a cookie and found some crayons and paper behind the counter that the coffee shop kept for children. Emma and Emily drew pictures while they waited. This is me and Emily and Daddy at the park, Emma explained, showing Marcus a drawing full of stick figures and scribbled trees. And this is me and Emma and Mommy making cookies, Emily added, holding up her own colorful creation. Marcus studied the drawings and felt a familiar ache in his chest. These were happy children with loving parents. The same kind of happiness he was fighting to preserve with Jamal. The irony wasn't lost on him that Judge Montgomery, who would decide whether Marcus could keep his son, was somewhere in the city right now, probably frantic about his own missing daughters. Mr. Marcus, Emma said quietly. Are you sad? Marcus realized he must have let his emotions show on his face. No, sweetheart. I'm just thinking about my son. I'm supposed to be home with him right now. We're sorry, Emily said, looking guilty. We didn't mean to make you miss time with your boy. Marcus felt his heart melt. Hey, look at me, he said gently. Both girls met his eyes. You have nothing to be sorry for. This isn't your fault. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes or have emergencies, and, when that happens, other grown-ups need to help. That's just how the world works. Like how you're helping us? Emma asked. Exactly like that. And, someday, when you're grown up, you'll help other people too. The girls smiled and went back to their drawings. Marcus watched them, marveling at their resilience and innocence. Despite being abandoned and scared, they had bounced back quickly once they felt safe. It reminded him of Jamal's ability to find joy even in difficult circumstances. As the evening grew later, Marcus began to worry. Where was Judge Montgomery? What could have happened to prevent him from picking up his daughters? And, where was their mother? Officer Gonzalez should have been able to reach her at the school by now. At 7:30, Officer Gonzalez returned with news. I reached your mother, she told the girls. There's been some confusion. Your father was supposed to pick you up at 5, not 3. Your mother dropped you off early by mistake. Marcus frowned. That didn't explain where Judge Montgomery was now, an hour and a half after he was supposed to arrive. The thing is, Officer Gonzalez continued, your father isn't answering his phone, and nobody at the courthouse has seen him since this afternoon. We're trying to figure out where he might be. Marcus felt a growing sense of unease. Judges were responsible people. They didn't just disappear without explanation, especially when their children were involved. What happens now? He asked. Well, your mother is driving back to pick you up, Officer Gonzalez told the girls. But it's going to take her about 2 hours to get here because of traffic and the rain. Emma and Emily looked tired and overwhelmed. It was past their bedtime, and they had been through an emotional day. Can I make a suggestion? Marcus said. There's a family restaurant just next door. Why don't we get them some dinner while we wait? They must be hungry. Officer Gonzalez nodded. That's very thoughtful of you, Mr. Williams. The department will reimburse you for their meal. That's not necessary, Marcus said quickly. I'm happy to help. The restaurant was quiet and family-friendly, with coloring placemats and a kid's menu shaped like a cartoon character. Marcus ordered chicken nuggets and French fries for the girls, along with milk and apple juice. He got himself a burger, realizing he hadn't eaten since lunch. While they ate, the girls told Marcus about their school, their friends, and their pets. They had a cat named Whiskers and a goldfish named Bubbles. Emma wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. Emily wanted to be a teacher like their mother. What about you, Mr. Marcus? Emily asked. What did you want to be when you were little? Marcus thought about it. I wanted to be a police officer, he said. I wanted to help people and make sure everyone was safe. Why didn't you become a police officer? Emma asked with the direct curiosity of childhood. Life happened, Marcus said simply. Sometimes we end up in different places than we planned. But that's okay. I still get to help people, just in different ways. Like helping you two tonight, he thought but didn't say. After dinner, they went back to the coffee shop to wait. The girls were getting sleepy, leaning against Marcus on either side as he sat between them in the booth. He felt a strange mix of tenderness and anxiety. These children trusted him completely, had no idea that their father held the power to destroy Marcus's own family. At 9:15, a woman burst through the coffee shop door, her eyes wild with panic. She was tall and elegant, with brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail and rain droplets on her designer coat. Her eyes scanned the room desperately until they landed on the booth where Marcus sat with her daughters. Emma! Emily, she cried, rushing over to them. The girls jumped up and ran into their mother's arms. Mommy! Jennifer Montgomery held her daughters tight, tears streaming down her face. Oh my God, I was so scared. I'm so sorry, babies. Mommy made a mistake with the times. She looked up at Marcus over her daughters' heads. You must be the man who helped them. Officer Gonzalez told me what you did. I can't thank you enough. Marcus stood up, suddenly, feeling awkward. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, Jennifer said firmly, still holding her girls. Not everyone would have stayed with them for 6 hours. Not everyone would have fed them and kept them safe. You're a hero. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the praise. They're good kids. They weren't any trouble. Jennifer pulled back to look at her daughters. Where's your father? Officer Gonzalez said he never showed up. Emma and Emily looked confused. We don't know, Mommy. We waited and waited, but Daddy never came. A shadow of worry crossed Jennifer's face. I've been trying to call him all evening. It's not like him to miss his time with the girls. Marcus watched the reunion, feeling like an outsider. This was a family dealing with a crisis, and he was just the stranger who had helped. He gathered his jacket, preparing to leave now that the children were safe with their mother. Wait, Jennifer said, noticing his movement. Please don't go yet. I want to properly thank you. And, the girls should say goodbye. Emma and Emily ran back to Marcus and hugged his legs. Thank you, Mr. Marcus, they said in unison. You're the nicest man in the whole world. Marcus knelt down to hug them back, his throat tight with emotion. You two take care of each other, okay? And, be good for your mommy. We will, Emma promised. And, take care of Jamal too, Emily added. Marcus smiled. I will. He stood up and looked at Jennifer Montgomery. In just a few weeks, he would be sitting in her husband's courtroom, pleading for the right to keep his son. The woman whose children he had just saved would be sitting in the gallery, watching as her husband decided whether Marcus deserved to be a father. Thank you again, Jennifer said, shaking his hand. If there's ever anything I can do for you, anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask. Marcus almost laughed at the irony. There was something she could do. She could talk to her husband about showing mercy to a single father who was just trying to do his best. But, he couldn't say that. Not now, maybe not ever. Just seeing them safe with their mom is thanks enough, he said. Marcus left the coffee shop and walked out into the rain. It was still coming down hard, but he barely noticed. His mind was spinning with everything that had happened. In a few hours, his life had become impossibly complicated. The bus ride home gave him time to think. Judge Montgomery had missed the custody exchange with his daughters. Something serious must have happened. Marcus felt a strange mix of concern and guilty hope. If something had happened to the judge, his case might be reassigned to someone else. Someone who didn't know him, but also someone who wouldn't owe him a debt of gratitude. When he finally got home, Jamal was already in his pajamas, doing homework at the kitchen table under Mrs. Chen's watchful eye. Daddy! Jamal jumped up and hugged him. Mrs. Chen made me practice my multiplication tables twice. Good for Mrs. Chen, Marcus said, hugging his son tight. Did you have a good day at school? Yeah, but I missed you. You're always home when I get off the bus. Marcus felt the familiar guilt that came with being a single parent. I'm sorry, buddy. I had to help some people who needed it. What kind of people? Marcus thought about how to explain. 2 little girls who got lost. They needed help finding their way home. Did you find their parents? We found their mom. Their dad, well, something happened to their dad, but I'm sure he's okay. Mrs. Chen gathered her things and prepared to leave. The boy is fed and his homework is done, she said in her accented English. Very good student, this one. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chen. I don't know what I'd do without you. The elderly woman patted his arm. You are good father, Marcus. Very good father. After she left, Marcus helped Jamal get ready for bed. They read a chapter from their current book together, and Marcus tucked his son in with their usual ritual of 3 hugs and 1 kiss. Daddy, Jamal said sleepily. Those little girls you helped, do they have daddies who love them like you love me? Marcus thought about Judge Montgomery, wherever he was. Yes, son. I think they do. Good, Jamal said with the simple satisfaction of childhood. Everyone should have a daddy who loves them. Marcus turned off the light and stood in the doorway for a moment, watching his son sleep. In 3 weeks, he would face Judge Montgomery in court. The man would decide whether Marcus got to keep having these bedtime conversations, these morning breakfasts, these everyday moments that made life worth living. The irony was almost unbearable. Marcus had saved the judge's children, had kept them safe and comforted them in their time of need. Now he had to hope that the same man would show him mercy when Marcus's own child was on the line. As he got ready for bed himself, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Today had started as an ordinary day, work, bills, the routine struggles of single parenthood. It was ending with his fate more tangled than ever with the very people who held his future in their hands. He thought about Emma and Emily, probably asleep in their own beds by now, safe and loved. He thought about Judge Montgomery, wherever he was, and hoped the man was safe too. Most of all, he thought about Jamal, sleeping peacefully down the hall, trusting that his father would always be there to protect him. Marcus fell asleep wondering if he had just saved his case or made it infinitely more complicated. Time would tell. In 3 weeks, he would have his answer. Marcus woke up the next morning with a knot in his stomach. The events of the previous evening felt like a strange dream, but the damp clothes hanging in his bathroom were proof that it had all really happened. He had spent 6 hours with Judge Montgomery's daughters, the same judge who would decide his custody fate in 3 weeks. While making breakfast for Jamal, Marcus tried to push away thoughts of what this all meant. He focused on the routine: scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, and making sure his son had everything ready for school. "You seem different today, Dad," Jamal observed, pouring syrup on his pancakes with the careful concentration of an 8-year-old. "Different how?" Marcus asked, though he wasn't surprised. Jamal had always been perceptive. "Worried, I guess. Like when you look at the bills." Marcus managed to smile. His son was too young to carry adult worries, but too smart not to notice them. "I'm just thinking about work stuff, buddy. Nothing for you to worry about." After dropping Jamal at school, Marcus arrived at the courthouse 30 minutes early. He wanted time to process what had happened and figure out how to handle seeing Judge Montgomery again. Would the judge even remember him? Marcus was just courthouse security. Many of the judges barely noticed the guards. The morning was busy with the usual flow of lawyers, defendants, and court staff. Marcus took his position at the security checkpoint and tried to focus on his job. Every time he heard footsteps in the marble hallway, he wondered if it might be Judge Montgomery. At 10:30, Officer Rodriguez approached the security desk. "Hey Marcus, did you hear about Judge Montgomery?" Marcus's heart skipped a beat. "What about him?" "Car accident yesterday evening. Pretty bad, from what I heard. He's in the hospital." The clipboard Marcus was holding slipped from his hands and clattered to the floor. Is he okay?" Rodriguez looked surprised by Marcus's reaction. "Yeah, he'll be fine. Broken ribs, concussion, some other injuries. But he's alive. They say he'll be out of work for at least a month, maybe longer." Marcus bent to pick up the clipboard, his mind racing. So that's why Judge Montgomery never showed up to get his daughters. He had been lying in a hospital bed while his children waited in the rain. What happened? Marcus asked, trying to sound casually curious. Somebody ran a red light and slammed into his car at the intersection of 5th and Main. He was unconscious for a while. Lucky thing is, his daughters weren't with him. Can you imagine? Marcus could imagine it all too well. He thought about Emma and Emily, how different last night could have been if they had been in that car. The what-ifs made him feel sick. Did they catch the other driver? He asked. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Drunk driver. Already had 2 DUIs. This time he'll go away for a long time, especially for hitting a judge. The morning crawled by. Marcus went through the motions of his job, checking IDs and running bags through the X-ray machine, but his thoughts kept drifting to the Montgomery family. Jennifer was probably at the hospital with her husband. Emma and Emily were probably at school, maybe not even knowing yet what had happened to their father. During his lunch break, Marcus walked to the small chapel across from the courthouse. He wasn't particularly religious, but sometimes the quiet space helped him think. He sat in a back pew and tried to sort through his emotions. Relief mixed with guilt in his chest. Judge Montgomery's accident meant Marcus's case would likely be reassigned to a different judge. The custody hearing he had been dreading might now happen with someone who had no connection to the events of last night. But, feeling relieved about another man's suffering made Marcus hate himself a little. He thought about Jennifer Montgomery's words, "If there's ever anything I can do for you, anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask." She had no idea that there was indeed something she could do. She could make sure whoever replaced her husband as Marcus's judge knew about the man who had protected her daughters. But, asking felt wrong. It felt like using the children's crisis for his own benefit. Marcus had helped Emma and Emily because they needed help, not because he hoped to gain something from it. A text message interrupted his thoughts. It was from Mrs. Patterson, the lawyer handling his custody case. Heard Montgomery is in hospital. Will contact court about reassignment. This might actually help us. Marcus stared at the message. Mrs. Patterson was thinking the same thing he was, that Judge Montgomery's accident might be good news for their case. It probably was good news, but it still felt wrong to celebrate. That afternoon, Marcus found it hard to concentrate on work. Every time he saw a familiar face from the courthouse staff, he wondered if they had heard about his involvement with the Montgomery children. Officer Gonzalez worked in a different precinct, and she had no reason to share details with courthouse security, but word had a way of traveling in small communities. At 3 o'clock, as Marcus was checking a lawyer's briefcase, Deputy Chief Bailey approached the security desk. Bailey was the man who supervised all courthouse security, and he rarely spoke directly to the guards unless something was wrong. "Williams, I need to see you in my office when your shift ends," Bailey said quietly. Marcus's stomach dropped. "Yes, sir." "Is everything okay?" Bailey's expression was unreadable. "Just come see me at 5. The next 2 hours passed like torture. Marcus ran through every possible scenario. Had he done something wrong by helping the Montgomery children? Was he in trouble for leaving work early yesterday? Had someone complained about his involvement in the situation? When 5 o'clock finally arrived, Marcus knocked on Deputy Chief Bailey's door with sweaty palms. "Come in and close the door," Bailey said from behind his desk. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s with gray hair and serious eyes. Marcus had always found him fair but intimidating. Marcus sat in the chair across from Bailey's desk and waited. "I got an interesting phone call today," Bailey began. "From Mrs. Jennifer Montgomery. Judge Montgomery's wife." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "Yes, sir. She told me quite a story about one of my security guards staying with her daughters for 6 hours yesterday evening. Buying them food, keeping them safe, making sure they got home to their mother." Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. "They needed help, sir." Bailey leaned back in his chair. "She also told me that you refused any payment or reward. That you just disappeared into the rain after making sure the children were safe. Anyone would have done the same thing." "No, Williams. Not anyone would have done the same thing." Bailey opened a folder on his desk. "I've been looking at your file. 2 years working here, never late, never any complaints. Your supervisor says you're reliable and professional. But this thing with the Montgomery children, this goes beyond reliable and professional." Marcus waited, still unsure where this conversation was going. "Mrs. Montgomery wants to do something for you," Bailey continued. "She offered to pay for your son's college education. She offered to help you find a better job. She offered a lot of things." "I told her I didn't want anything," Marcus said quickly. "I meant that." Bailey smiled for the first time since Marcus had entered the office. "I believe you. And that's exactly what I told her when she asked about your character." "Sir?" "She wanted to know what kind of man you are, Williams. What kind of person stays with 2 scared children for 6 hours without expecting anything in return?" "I told her you're exactly the kind of man who would do that." Bailey closed the folder. "She also told me about your upcoming custody case. How you're fighting to keep your son." Marcus felt his face grow hot. "That's a personal matter, sir. It won't affect my work here." "I know it won't. But Mrs. Montgomery asked me if I thought you were a good father." "Want to know what I told her?" Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. "I told her that any man who would spend his evening taking care of 2 scared children instead of going home to his own son is exactly the kind of man who should be raising a child." The words hit Marcus like a physical force. He blinked rapidly, fighting back unexpected tears. Bailey stood up from his desk. "Your case got reassigned today. Judge Patricia Hendricks will be hearing it instead. She's tough but fair." I've known her for 20 years. Thank you for telling me, sir. One more thing, Williams. Mrs. Montgomery asked if there was anything she could do for you. I told her the best thing she could do was make sure Judge Hendricks knew about the kind of man who helped her daughters. She's going to write a letter to the court. Marcus felt overwhelmed. Sir, I don't want to win because of what happened last night. I want to win because I'm a good father. Bailey nodded approvingly. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. But, Williams, being a good father isn't just about taking care of your own child. It's about being the kind of person who protects any child who needs protecting. What you did last night, that showed exactly who you are. When Marcus left Bailey's office, his legs felt unsteady. The conversation had gone nothing like he had expected. Instead of being in trouble, he found himself with unexpected support from people he had never expected to notice him. The bus ride home gave him time to process everything. Judge Montgomery was injured but alive. Marcus's case had been reassigned. Jennifer Montgomery was writing a letter to the new judge about what Marcus had done for her daughters. Everything was changing because of one evening when he had simply done what felt right. When he got home, Jamal was at the kitchen table working on an art project with Mrs. Chen. The older woman looked up when Marcus entered. You look different tonight, she observed. Lighter. Marcus realized she was right. The heavy weight he had been carrying for weeks felt a little easier to bear. Good day at work, she asked. Better than expected, Marcus said, hugging Jamal from behind as his son worked on what looked like a drawing of their apartment building. After Mrs. Chen left, Marcus and Jamal cooked dinner together. It was one of their traditions. Jamal would help with simple tasks like stirring sauce or setting the table while Marcus handled the actual cooking. Tonight they made spaghetti with meat sauce, one of Jamal's favorites. Dad, can I ask you something? Jamal said as they ate. Always, buddy. Those little girls you helped yesterday, are they okay? Marcus smiled. They're fine. They're home with their mom and dad. Good. I was worried about them all day at school. The simple compassion in his son's voice made Marcus's chest tight with pride. This was the boy Sarah wanted to take away from him. This was the child she claimed would be better off without his father. Jamal, you know how sometimes we have to go to court because of the divorce stuff? His son nodded seriously. Jamal knew the basics of what was happening, though Marcus had tried to spare him the worst details. Well, it looks like we might have a different judge than we thought. Someone new. Is that good or bad? Marcus considered the question. I think it might be good. Sometimes a fresh start is exactly what you need. That night, after Jamal was asleep, Marcus sat at his kitchen table and tried to write a letter to Jennifer Montgomery.